I'd like to introduce our final speaker of the evening, Dynshaw Italia. He's Chief Financial Officer of Blue Water Bio, another Global Entrepreneur Programme alumni. Dynshaw has been recognised as one of the brightest young finance directors after winning various Finance Director of the Year awards. He has another impressive pedigree. We've got heard from some fantastic people tonight. Ex-KPMG. He then became the 5th employee or member of eBookers. Currently CFO of Blue Water Bio, Getting tired now. I need a gin and tonic, probably. Dynshaw, I'll leave it to you to explain.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'm not an entrepreneur. I've been lucky. I've worked with entrepreneurs for the last 15 years. And the one thing I can say is they're probably not human. I don't even think they're from this planet. And in fact, I'm surprised that I still have all the hair on my head working for them. But saying that, there is no place today or no environment today that I would rather work for than an entrepreneurial environment. So what I thought I'll do is, I've been very fortunate. I worked for 3 very fast-growing organizations. One is eBookers, Cobra Bear, and now Blue Water Bio. And I thought what I'd do is I'll take you through some of my learnings in the next 15 minutes or so and give you some snippets from what I've learned in those 3 companies. So if I start with eBookers, right from day one, I was the 5th employee there, but from day one we had a vision, and that was to be the leading online provider in Europe. Now, in those days, it was easy to do this, but on the back of one idea, on the back of one spreadsheet business model, on the back of one person designing a website and the travel technology, we raised $62 million on the NASDAQ on the Noah market. It's never going to happen again, but those were the days. But right from the beginning, we had very, very clear objectives, and I think this is really important. We knew we had to be the first mover in the industry. We knew we had to deal with negotiated fares. Those are fares that airlines negotiate with, that travel agencies negotiate with the airlines over years. We knew we wanted to be pan-European. Like Dan said, we didn't want to be UK-based, we wanted to be European. We knew we had to have a technology better than anybody else, and this last point is the most important. People were going to go onto the internet for the first time, so we needed to give them confidence to spend that money. So we felt that we had to have a bricks and mortar presence, so that if people felt a little bit uncertain about spending their money, they knew, okay, there's an office there and I can go to if something went wrong. So that was important to us. So my first snippet to everyone here is, if you have an idea, look at the market potential and the market opportunity. If there's no market, there's no point having a great idea. For eBookers, it was all about the growth of the online travel market. And you can see we modeled it on the US. So we weren't trying to replicate or try to do something from start. We were trying to replicate what was happening in the US. Population figures in Europe were bigger. Travel spend was more or less the same. Vacation times in Europe were much more, 3 times more than the US. And profitability per tickets was much higher. And look at the online spend graph. From 49 million in 1997, it was projected to be 3.5 billion in 5 years. So we wanted to be the first mover and get a piece of that. We made 11 acquisitions in the span of 6 months. We had 11 fulfillment centers, 11 call centers, and 350 employees within a span of 18 months from when we started. So you can imagine the growth trajectory. My second snippet to you is understand your revenue drivers and how you can influence them. And that means go granular. So in eBookers, our whole model was, how can we drive traffic to the website? How can we convert that traffic into bookings? How can we then upsell to people who are buying tickets? How can we sell insurance, car, and increase the value of the bookings? So offline travel spend, online travel spend, portals, links, all our spend there drove traffic to the website. And we understood the customer acquisition costs in every single line to the detail. What is it costing us for getting each customer at each of these levels. And then see what happened. Our website's number of visitors grew in June from 104,000 to 1.5 million per month in 9 months. Our revenue increased from $1.6 million to $23 million in 1 year, and then in 1 quarter, $25 million. And then the next stage was simple. We just had to go raise $100 million more, spend it, and we would reach profitability and become a massive, successful company. But then the dot-com market crashed. And we went to try and raise money, and we ended up only raising $45 million. The third snippet, I think this is very, very important. You have to adapt or you will die. And this is very, very important for businesses. So how did we adapt? From a high growth model, we went to a low cost model. We moved our call centers to India. We moved our back office functions to India, and we reached cash flow positivity in September 2001. That was within 3 years of when we started. I think Dan touched on this. You cannot afford to stand still. One of the big lessons we learned in eBookers was that we had this amazing, brilliant guy who built the travel technology and the website. And what he did for 24 months was made sure that the website didn't go down. So he kept maintaining the website, and he wasn't able to innovate at all. So in 24 months, everybody caught up with us and started to go ahead of us. If we had actually allowed him to train somebody so that they could maintain the website and we could use him to continue to innovate, we would have been far ahead of the curve, but we didn't do that. Big lesson that we learned. Timing is critical. I mean, we sold at exactly the right time. The entrepreneur went home with a check of £110 million in 3 years. How did he make that money? He allowed the bankers to make money for him. He didn't stinge. I always say, if you pay peanuts, you'll get monkeys. Pay the bankers, incentivize them, let them get the best people on the case, let them put the resources behind it. They will get you the best value for what you're trying to do. And that's exactly what happened in eBookers. Under promise and over deliver. This is my mantra everywhere I go. We would not have been able to raise that $45 million because we raised that from our existing investors if we did not over-deliver on what we had promised. You would never be able to do that. So always under promise and over-deliver. So that was eBookers. So I thought I'll now touch on Cobra Beer, where I was Chief Operating Officer and Finance Director. Again, from day one, it was to brew the finest ever Indian beer and make it a global beer brand. The market opportunity, lager was growing at a very fast pace. The Indian restaurant sector, where we wanted to start Cobra Beer, the number of restaurants were actually growing really, really fast. So we identified our niche market, and that's where we went for it. Snippet number 7, have a real point of difference in your product and then exploit it. For Cobra, it was the fact that it was less gassy and extra smooth and went really well with food. So as a result, we could go to the Indian restaurant sector and actually prove that by selling Cobra versus any other beer, they would sell more beer and actually sell more food as well. How did that turn into results? In 7 years, we had 95% of all Indian restaurants stock Cobra Beer, and 86% of every single Indian restaurant in the UK stock Cobra Beer. This is something that Dan mentioned. Do things differently and better, and you will change the marketplace forever. This is another mantra in Cobra that we carried out very, very regularly. And give you 2 examples of this. First is when we were selling beer into the Indian restaurants, we started to see that actually wine was becoming very popular. Now, the first reaction to that is, okay, how can we sell more beer, or how can we stop that from happening? But when we actually analyzed the market, we found that actually people were just selling cheap wine into the beer market, into the Indian restaurants. So we actually created a low-price wine, but with high-quality ingredients in there, and we created our own wine range. And that's how we sort of turned that threat into an opportunity. When we started in Cobra, the first thing we wanted to do was actually advertise in trade magazines. But we found in the Indian restaurant sector, there are no trade magazines. So what did we do? We created a trade magazine. And then we advertised in that. So we turned that threat into an opportunity again. Snippet number 9, again, learning from lessons. Don't rely on one supplier or customer. Diversify your risk. We found a brewery in Poland that was producing exceptional quality beer and at a very, very reasonable price. And so we started to produce our beer there. Nearly 90% of our beer was produced in Poland. And then one day, SAB Miller came in and bought the brewery, sent us a letter in the post saying, you've got 6 months after which we're going to stop brewing the beer. So you have to be able to diversify your risk. Snippet 10, if you make mistakes, cut your losses quick. As everybody here, I'm sure, would do, we thought US, the biggest market, let's go and start selling our beer here. We've been successful in the UK. So we started selling Cobra in the US. We very quickly found that we're going to get nowhere. It's going to be a lot of investment in there, so we just pulled out. And I have to put it there. I'm a finance director, so I need to have a bit of finance in there. But you have to be innovative in all areas, even in finance. And I'll give you a quick example, and I just put a simple balance sheet on the table. Take a fixed asset. You want to raise money from a fixed asset, do a sale and lease back. You want to raise money from stock, finance against stock. You want to raise money against debtors, you can do factoring, you can do invoice discounting. You can raise money from cash. You can raise money from your current assets. So a lot of us have rent deposits. You can actually go to a bank and say, I've got this rent deposit, can you loan me some money against that? Extend your credit days. We were so good extending creditor days because in Cobra, our creditor days were 240 creditor days. Those guys in finance, you can understand how much we stretched our creditor days. And repayment holidays for loans, and then different share capital. Now, if you look at this slide, you'll see that in Cobra, we raised money from overdraft facilities, small firms, loan guarantee schemes, bills of exchange. We used to only do these in textbooks, but we did raise money through bills of exchange. Private placements, convertible preference shares, duty deferment facilities, trade finance, bank loans, PIK instruments, you name it, and we've raised money through all these various different options. One of the speakers touched on this about quick decisions, and I see this a lot in entrepreneurial businesses, that the fact that you can move quickly is a real positive and a real benefit. And go with your gut, that's what people say. Go with your gut, but go with your gut with informed information and informed facts. Don't go blindly, don't go hastily. I've seen too many decisions where people make hasty decisions rather than quick and informed decisions. Timing is critical. Where ebook is, we got it absolutely right. With Cobra, we got hit with the Lehman Brothers crash, and we got it, the timing was actually wrong. Eventually, we ended up with a sort of joint venture partnership with Molson Coors. But had we sold 6 months or a year earlier, we would have probably got the same values that ebookers did. And Lehman Brothers changed the world. It's totally changed. Fundraising is tougher, due diligence takes longer, deals take 3 times longer than you could ever imagine 3 or 4 years back. I've done so many deals since the ebooker days, and just for the tiniest of things, people just want to know more. They want you to do much more work. So just keep that in mind. So you need to plan for this. And I'm an accountant, but I will say this. Lawyers and accountants wreck deals if you let them lead the process. You have to lead the process and don't let them lead it. I've seen too many deals where lawyers are running it and they don't look at the practicalities of the deal and it just falls away. So you've got to drive it. So my last bit is Blue Water Buyer as Chief Financial Officer. Again, from day one, and this is the theme, it was to create this leading standalone water technology company. And in Blue Water Buyer, we are in the water sector. It's an unusual company because the water sector is a very conservative sector. Everything is very slow. But what's happening in recent times is now people are starting to invest in water. And we've got a proprietary technology, which I'll talk a little bit about. And again, we're looking at a global opportunity, and we're looking at it to create a company where we have more than one technology, so 3 or 4 technologies in there to take it forward. Again, look at the market size that we are operating in. 116 billion is what our sweet spot is at the moment. Unusually in Blue Water Bio, the management team is all from internet and high growth businesses. The idea being we can actually try and change the mindset of a conservative industry. Snippet number 15. There are 20 of these, so I'm nearly there. There are 8 P's of building a business. 4 P's of marketing, everybody knows: product, pricing, place, and promotions. And then you add the entrepreneurial bit. Passion, you have to have passion. Persistence, most important. Finance, spelled with a PH, you have to have that. And then you have the people, which is very, very important. Somebody mentioned this before. You have to hire people better than you, and you have to hire people with the right attitude. And the beauty is people attract people. In Blue Water Bio, the first person that we hired was the most well-known technical person in the industry. And because we hired him, he attracted all the technical people under him to come and build up the team in Blue Water Bio. What does our technology do? We've got 2 main technologies. The first is a wastewater treatment technology. So we convert all types of municipal waste, meat processing plants, industrial waste, leachate waste. So we clean wastewater to a very high standard. So that's our HYBAX process. And the second is a multimedia filter, which competes against sand filters and other multimedia filters. But we do it at a much more cost-effective way and a much lower footprint. I won't talk too much about the technology, but one of the things that we learned very quickly with Blue Water Bio is, and this was true with Cobra, is don't underestimate the power of networking and relationships. Relationships are what get you through the door, and then you can sell your product. So we won a really major project in Bahrain, mainly because of relationships, and then we were able to sell our product into it. And I have to have this slide in there, but actually there is a real benefit to this. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of how the UKTI and the GEP program can actually help you. And actually, Alpesh is sitting here, and he sort of pushed me to just sort of join the growth and entrepreneur program. So in the UKTI, when we were doing the Bahrain deal, we came to a sort of standstill. I then picked up the phone to Alpesh and said, "Can you help?" And then through the British Embassy in Bahrain, we managed to unplug the sort of blockage that was going on, and the deal actually went through. So that was one example. Second example is we go on a lot of trade missions because that opens out the market for us. So if there's a trade mission to Brazil, what the UKTI do is they line up meetings for you. You can actually go and meet partners potential partners that you could work with. And the beauty, you can get government grants against this, so it doesn't actually cost you much at all. Another example is we needed to find a supplier in India. Called up one of the people at the GEP, "Can you find this magnetite supplier for us?" They did. They have a database of information. They put us in touch with 2 suppliers, and we benefited from that. So that gives you a really good example of how to use it. Second last snippet. Find out what differentiates you from your competition, but not from your perspective, but from a customer perspective. So this is a really good one, because with HYBAX, we knew that it's a high-performance technology. It lowers CapEx, it lowers OpEx, it lowers the footprint, and that's how we were selling it. And then we actually installed it in Severn Trent. And what was amazing was that Severn Trent felt that because of the fact that our technology was fabricated off-site, and we only took 2 weeks to install, that compared to all the other technologies, this was by far the single biggest competitive advantage we had. And we never even thought of that as being a competitive advantage. So you need to look at it from a sort of customer perspective. Second last slide. When we started Blue Water Bio, in fact, just a couple of years ago, nobody ever believed we could raise money to support this business. Last year, we concluded the largest ever private placement in water for £22 million in this business. So I'll end with one last slide, which says, if someone tells you something can't be done, It's just their way of saying that they can't do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dynshaw. That was fantastic. Before we started this evening, Dynshaw said, I cannot tell this story in less than 20 minutes. He actually made it 18, so that was fantastic.